Hello and welcome. My name is Errity Green and this is Wiseman Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on how to heal this. So we will dive in today. It doesn't matter your circumstance, situation, scenario, and we are going to talk about how to heal this. I want to thank you for watching. If you find this reading resonates for you, do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me, my work, you can check out my social medias, as well as social media, really, plural, but you know, as well as my website, all of which you can find below. So I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from. As always, you are choosing from left to right. Okay, card pile 1. I think you're going through something right off the bat. When we say how to heal this, this is about really owning your authentic expression. This is about letting yourself be yourself, letting yourself be yourself freely, speak freely, do freely, live freely. I feel like there's a history here of making yourself small, making yourself less than, hiding, shaming, like self-shaming really, but more or less cowering and clipping your wings, but you doing that to yourself to make yourself more palatable for other people. So I have this history here where in order to avoid conflict, in order to avoid confrontation, in order to avoid at the deeper level, a lack of approval or disapproval even from someone else, you have become less of yourself, right? So you take up less space, so to speak. You choose not to speak freely. You choose not to say your piece. You choose to hide, to run, to escape. And you've done this in service to preserve the connection and to therefore really though get approval. But also I feel like it was to let the person have theirs, right? There's an energy there of, well, they can have it. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me. They can have it. Like you being the bigger person. But if you imagine it sort of being an ice sculpture and you chip away at yourself and chip away at yourself and chip away at yourself, always being the bigger person, always letting them have it, always letting them have the day, the say, the whatever, letting them believe it this way, so on and so forth, letting yourself always be the bad guy. Sure, I'm the bad guy. That kind of thing. Over time, you find that you're less and less yourself. And then after so long, you almost can't even find yourself again. Then you start to wonder, well, what is my opinion on this? Or what are my thoughts on this? Or how would I respond in this scenario? Or what would I like to say? It's almost like you, over time, after deluding yourself and denying yourself for so long, you don't even know where you stand anymore. You don't even know what to say anymore. You're kind of confused on who you are, what your authentic expression is. This is all about you owning and backing yourself. How far will you go for yourself? How centered and anchored will you stand for yourself? It's really about how much will you back yourself? How far are you willing to go to back yourself? And your history, your past, has always been not very far. You'll, again, throw the other person a bone. You're quicker to throw them a bone than you are you. You'd rather take the hit to your ego, the bruise to your ego, swallow your pride and let things be, let sleeping dogs lie, let bygones be bygones, just to keep the peace, to keep it simple, to keep it easy, to keep it palatable for other people. Well, at least I'm digestible for other people. They can handle me. So there's something here about you unleashing yourself and letting yourself be your authentic, true self. And, you know, there is a message here that this doesn't mean, because it immediately came through, this doesn't mean you go trample all over other people. Like, oh, in my creative expression, in my unique expression, I just get to go trample everyone around town because I'm so big and I take up so much space. I'm not being small anymore. I'm just going to go, it's like kind of guns blazing, blast off kind of energy. We tend to find that in healing spaces where after someone's been abused or felt small for so long, they're like ready to pop. And that's not a problem. That's part of the healing process. But what it's saying here, this isn't meaning that your creative expression gets to go trample on everyone else's. In fact, it's about you own your space and who you are. And you also respect as big or small as anyone else's and their space, right? No one gets to be bigger, faster, better, bolder, brighter, whatever. You get to have your expression and your space and their bubble, or your bubble, and they get to have theirs, right? So you're not trampling on anyone else's expression by taking up more space. There's room enough for everybody. They get to be them. You get to be you. And if you are in spaces where people don't allow you to be you, it might not be the room for you. This might be someone who wants to take up the most space. And if they find you taking up space, they want to trample on you, right? So there'll be a blow up or something that will happen to where they're able to then take up more space and trample over your expression, right? So it goes both ways. Everyone gets to be themselves and everyone gets to be free to be themselves, and no one has the right to trample on anyone else's expression. You get to be you, they get to be them. And this is about you anchoring in and owning yourself. Maybe the first time in your life, but backing yourself first and foremost. Before anybody else, you've backed yourself. Before anyone else, you've backed yourself. Before anyone else, you've backed yourself. This is about unleashing yourself. No longer in a cage, no longer a lion in a cage in the zoo. Instead, you have decided to give yourself permission to be you all the way. Whatever happened recently was an opportunity for you to own and claim more of you, and to no longer bow down, cower, turn away, hide, make yourself small, and fit in a box that someone else wants you to fit in so they can feel bigger, better, right? And it doesn't mean that the other person, you might not see it that way, right? You might see it that they might be showing up sort of as the victim, right? And so this might not sound clear because I'm saying they're feeling like they're trying to take up more space and become big, and we're like, well, in my situation, this person was actually feeling less than or whatever. But ultimately, what was the end game or the end goal? Was it so that you would be smaller and they could take up more space? More than likely, yes, because somewhere, somehow here, you have a history and a pattern of clipping your wings, hiding, making yourself smaller to make other people more comfortable, to make you more palatable for other people, to make it easier for other people. I'll be less so they can be more. I'll be less so I can be more consumable. I'll be less so it's easier for them. You see what I'm saying? Being less of yourself and, sculpting away at yourself, but not being more of yourself. You're being less of yourself just to make someone else happy. But here's what's supposed to happen through this current or this recent issue or situation, hardship, conflict, confrontation. This is about a rebirth and claiming more of yourself. No longer backing down, no longer cowering, no longer turning away, no longer throwing the bone or giving it up or giving away. Instead, it's time for you to dig your heels in. You get to be more. You get to be just as much as anyone else. You don't have to cower. You don't have to run. You don't have to hide. This also isn't about fighting, right? This isn't about trampling all over somebody else. This is about you standing on your own 2 feet and digging your heels in to own your space. Not taking from someone else or taking from someone else's space, or you're making yours as bigger, badder, bolder, whatever. Again, we're not taking anything from anyone else. You're just allowing yourself to be yourself. No one gets to tell you who you are. No one gets to tell you what you are. You get to decide who and what you are. And then you get to be that. And nobody gets a say. This is about you owning and claiming more of your potential, letting yourself spread your wings out far, letting yourself really claim your space and take up more space and be all that you are. There's something about you stepping into more empowerment here. Yes, so especially in relationships. And I feel like you will also attract and connect with people who are more like this, who are respectful of that sovereignty and of each other's expression, who might be, we'll say, more mature in terms that they can share space with everyone in a room, letting everyone be themselves without trying to dominate or control, but also not trying to claim victim or victimization because you shine a little bit brighter, right? So you're not seeing that villain or victim dynamic. Instead, you invite people who see you as you are, who celebrate you as you are, who value and appreciate you as you are, who also let you be as you are, where it's not a problem for them to be as you are, where it's not another issue for you to be as you are, where it's not, again, a problem really for you to be as you are. If you're in spaces where it's always a problem for you to be as you are, you're in the wrong space. You're in the wrong company. It's not that you're wrong. It's that you're in the wrong company. That they can't allow you, whatever is inside of them is either triggered or can't compute, can't, it can't, what's the word? Those people, for whatever reason, they have something inside of them. Past trauma could be, past conditioning could be, where they feel insecure or threatened by your bigness, by your persona, by your expression, by who you are. Just you being you is triggering and activating for them, and that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them, and they will find their own path in healing through this. Your job is to find yours, and yours now is all about freeing yourself from the leash, freeing yourself from the cage, and letting yourself be the wild, untamed expression that you are. No longer having to hide away, turn away, wilt your flowers, clip your wings, and cage yourself just in case, just to make yourself more palatable, but instead freeing yourself. This is where you find that what is the healing here, right? We're saying how to heal from this. Ultimately, what happens is you become at peace in your body, at peace with yourself, at peace in yourself. Again, no more having to hide away, be less, darken parts of yourself, be less bright in order to pacify other people and make other people feel better about themselves. Their insecurities are theirs. Your security, your confidence, whatever it is, your bigness, you're taking up space. If that's offensive to them, if they are sensitive to that, that's their work. Your work is not to cower, not to bow down, not to defer, not to be less of yourself just to make someone else more comfortable. Your job is to be you. So how to heal from this, card pile 1? This is all about freeing yourself, spreading your wings, being all that you are, letting yourself shine bright, and then allowing and even pursuing connections, or affirming and reinforcing connections that allow you to be all that you are, that value and celebrate you in your uniqueness, in the bigness, in the space that you take up, in the light and the bright light that you shine, the people who celebrate you as your bright light, not the people who want it to dim, not the people who want it to shine less than. The people who celebrate your shine, that's who you want to be with. So that's how you're going to heal, setting yourself free, card pile 1, letting yourself be yourself and letting yourself be surrounded by the people who love you as you are and you're all that you are. All right, card pile 1, if this lands, resonates, like, subscribe, press the bell icon, do share your story below, and I will see you next time. Thank you, card pile 1. Okay, card pile 2, how to heal from this. So I'm feeling like this is, I don't know yet, right? This is the initial whiffs, we'll say, of the reading here. So follow me or walk with me a little bit and see how this unfolds and develops if it right away doesn't land. But I'm just catching up with what's being dropped, more or less. So I do think this, for many of you, is going to be career, purpose, path, purpose, work, business, or something like that related. It may not be the case for everybody. It may apply in a different way. So do be keen and discerning about how this is going to apply to your unique situation or circumstance. With that said, it feels really relevant and tied to creativity, purpose, expression, etc., with how you show up in the world. Because I'm feeling like this is about trusting your path, trusting how things are unfolding for you, trusting how you give birth to your life, how you give birth to your creations. This is trusting who you are as a unique individual. Of course, not being someone else, but 100% being you. It's relevant a little bit to card pile 1, which is interesting. Very different feel, different energies, but similar themes. I feel like this is you trusting the body that you were born in, the life that you are, your individual expression, your identity. Some of you might have had, so this might start crossing into more general territory as opposed to just career and purpose, although they might be tied, or for some people, it's going to be specifically career. With that said, I am feeling sort of identity crises too. Maybe some of you have struggled in the past with gender identity or sexual orientation. You don't have to. It does not have to be relevant. But for some of you, it will be, because I do feel a sense of identity here and trusting your path, trusting your way, trusting who you are, and also trusting the life that you were given, the body that you were born into, right? Really trusting the higher power in terms of the life that you have been, again, given, but the twists and turns your life has taken. Because now I feel like for some people, I'm feeling like maybe it's been a hard road for you. Maybe there's been particular traumas and things that you almost feel like left behind, like there's no way life is going to get better for me. There's no way that I could experience what other people do, because at this point I'm so kind of jaded and all there are leftovers now. Who's going to want sort of leftovers? Kind of that energy. So again, this can take many flavors, because when we say how to heal from this, that this could be anything for anyone, but I'm feeling like it does have to do with who you are, how you show up in the world, what your life is, what you kind of give birth to in your life, like how you create, how you lead, how you show up. And it's loving yourself. It's letting yourself love yourself as you are. Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful reading, card pile 2. This is loving yourself as you are. All the nuances, all the subtleties, all the silly things, all the quirky things, all the weird things, the off things, the things that might be considered less than or not cool or unpopular or unattractive. So even loving the parts of you that you consider or that other people consider, society considers unattractive. This is really letting yourself be enough, letting yourself be enough for you. Okay. So this is pretty huge because it's like loving all the parts of you, loving either parts you might even think are bad or wrong, loving the parts of you that other people may not agree with or disapprove of, loving the parts that your parents didn't like or approve of, loving the parts that your school said were a problem, loving the parts that your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever said was a problem. It's like, can you love yourself as you are, just as you are, recognizing that all of this was purposeful? Now, whether it was purposeful given by God, higher power, source, spirit, or whether it was just given through the experiences of life, because we do become certain people and become a certain identity, so to speak. Our ego is developed through the experiences and the learning conditions and the trauma and history of our lives. Whether it was given that way or the other, all of it being more or less one and the same at the end of the day, we can love it because it was there based on that experience. And if we are to judge that part of ourselves, we're also not giving true credit to the experience that gave rise to that trait, that quality, that attribute. Right? So we might become shy if we were bullied as a child, right? We might become jaded if things didn't work out for us. We might become depressed if we have a long history of trauma, right? So if we judge ourselves for those traits, qualities, or attributes, we're also not giving full credit to the experience that gave rise to that. So it's like, can we love all of those nooks and crannies and all of those parts that make us uncomfortable and even make other people uncomfortable? Can we love ourselves enough and trust in who we are? Trust in every trait, trust in every quality, trust in every attribute, trust in who we are as we are, that there really isn't anything wrong, that all of it unfolded either quote unquote as it should or as it would based on that experience of our lives. Because a certain conditions or a certain number of conditions can lead to a certain kind of personality, whether it be right conditioning in terms of nurture or if it was nature. So if it either happened biologically, energetically, spiritually, or if it happened through our environment, all of which are mostly out of our control, especially as a child. As we get older, we become more mature and conscious, and we watch things like this, and we get to grow and develop and mature and embody and become new and different aspects and parts of ourselves. But for a long part of our lives, it's mostly unconscious. So who are we to judge something we could never control in the first place? That makes absolutely no sense. This is so much about loving yourself, your path, your process. For some of you, this is going to be very much tied to your work, the value of your work, knowing that you show up this certain way and that is valuable. It's not going to be the case for everyone. Some of you want to know your purpose and you want clarity in your life purpose and your path, and you don't understand who you are, what you have to offer, or if you could ever have anything to offer that's purposeful. So again, some of you have been just hit time and again, wave after crashing wave after crashing wave that have knocked you over. Some of you have been challenged by identity crises over the years or gender identity crises. Some of you have just been impacted by life and history and trauma so many times that it's like after a while, you're sort of sick at sea, just haven't been bounced around so much. It's like, well, how do you heal from this? For you guys, though, I feel like it does have to do with a self-love theme. This is about loving yourself, loving all parts of yourself, no longer shaming yourself, no longer judging yourself, no longer shaming and judging the parts of you that other people don't like, or again, other people find unattractive. When you're just being you, right? Maybe you have a certain kind of sense of humor and some people don't like it. Those people aren't your people, right? So it's really loving yourself, loving your thoughts, your opinions, how you tend to what perspectives you tend to occupy, what kind of opinions you tend to hold, versus judging them all, shaming them all, making them all a problem, trying to change or fix or eliminate something. It's like these are all to be valued and appreciated because it's a product, a more or less masterpiece of a whole lifetime of quote unquote life engineering or an ice sculpture, that's been sort of polished over time. Yeah, this is realizing that you are the key to your future, your life, your destiny. It's what this wants to say is you are you for a reason. You are you because you're the only you. You are you because you're the only you who can not only embody this identity, but then share from this identity. You are the only you, and therefore the only one who can impact the world in a very particular way, a very unique way, your way. So this does have something to do with bringing about your destiny, bringing about your purpose, bringing about some kind of end game or outcome. So again, some of you, this may be tied to that. It's not going to be the case for everyone, but I think all of you in one way or another want something, an outcome. Even put it in the comments. Let me know what it is if you're on card pile 2. But some of you want a relationship. You want to quote unquote heal well enough to be in a relationship. Some of you want to heal well enough to go to school and complete something and come out educated. Some of you want to heal well enough to where you can really trust yourself, your path, and your process, and trust that your work is valuable, your business is valuable, that you'll be successful. Some of you just, I feel like, just want to be sort of loved, and you want to live a life that's happy and fulfilling. So who you are, though, the whole point of this reading, who you are is tied to your purpose. Who you are is tied to this level of impact. Who you are is tied to the value of your work. If you're divorcing yourself and saying, oh, I don't like me, but I'd like for my work to be valuable. I don't really like me, but I really like to find a partner that likes me. I don't really like me, but I'd really like to uncover what my purpose is. It's almost like two different messages, number one, mixed signals. And then you'll never actually truly find the aligned thing, the aligned relationship, the aligned work outcome, the aligned life outcome, whatever that manifestation, dream, goal, aim is, or aspiration. You'll never actually be able to do that if you're divorced from yourself, because you're not aligned with who you are. So even if you got that thing, maybe so you find someone, you get in the relationship, whatever, you're going to find that it's subpar. It's not exactly what you wanted because you weren't fully embracing yourself first. So you have to embrace yourself, love yourself. Not that we ever are going to be perfect and polished. All right. That's over here. I agree with you. Okay. As Errity, but it's saying that this is your path, your purpose, all of that comes alive and comes to full fruition, and your potential is much more sort of materialized and even available to you when you accept you as you for you. Like, you get to be you. And as you accept that, love that, appreciate that, you're also allowing greater manifestations or your purpose or whatever to come forth, to arise, to become clear. Very much about loving yourself. Yeah, seeing your value, even amongst company, amongst other people. Some of you might have had challenges, and this kind of ties to work, but it doesn't have to. Could have been school. It could have been social circles. Could have been your family. But it was like kind of feeling the oddball out, and or it could be black sheep, but it kind of has that vibe of seeing everyone else's gifts, talents, and attributes, but never really fully seeing your own. So it's like, oh gosh, Sarah's really cool and she was super popular and she always had the cool boyfriend. Or it's like that whole energy of, well, my sister, she always like excelled in everything. Everything she touched turned to gold, and mom and dad just loved her, you know. But it's like you can't see your own value. You can't see your own worth. It's like you can see everyone else's, but not yourself. This is about really filling your own two shoes, right? Filling your shoes and standing on your own 2 feet and really loving and valuing you, your unique contribution, your unique value, what you have to offer, who you are specifically and uniquely. Because as a result of your seeing yourself as less than, as not enough, as not good enough, and seeing yourself as less than the company that you keep, whether it's business associates, colleagues, fellow students, peers, family, friends, you create sort of misaligned outcomes in your life where everything, like, it's not a full match for you, right? You find a relationship, but it's not a full gelled kind of match. Or you have a career or job, but it's not a full gelled match. Or you develop something, creative project, or some kind of career path, and it doesn't jive, or people don't pick up on it, or they don't buy the product or the service. Again, this is about you being 100% you, letting yourself be you, and what unfolds from there is what's going to bring about those higher potential outcomes, the outcomes you desire, the outcomes you want to achieve. And ultimately, all this was ever about is you loving you. At the end of the day, you might be seeking for some kind of creative outcome, some kind of fruit, some kind of carrot or whatever at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, this was always just about you facing you and loving you, you cherishing you for who you are as you are. No changes, no takebacks, no, oh, if I just got rid of this, if I just substituted that, or if I just made this a little bit better or polished this or tweaked that, then I would be good. Not that, okay? Loving yourself as you are, even the little nooks and crannies and weird quirks, because that's you as you are, because it's your path. Again, so it always comes back. Again, how do you heal this? This is about coming back to trusting who you are, your path, your identity, and trusting that there's value in that unique path, life, and identity. Trusting there's value in who you are as a person. Trusting there's value in the way that you do things, in the way you share things, in the way you speak things, in the way that you show up, in the way that you sing, dance, write, contribute, express. There's value in all of those things, your particular sense of humor and your movie taste and the kind of beverage that you order from Starbucks, okay? The kind of problems that plague you, those are all unique to you. There is value in that. You are intended to appreciate that, not turn away from it, divorce it, abandon it, make it a problem. You are never a problem to solve. You're never a problem at all. You were always meant and intended to be loved. So, card pile 2, that is your reading. This was always about, first, end, or beginning, middle, and end about loving you. So card pile 2, do share your particular experience down below, because I feel like this covered some broad territory. If you found it resonated, like, subscribe, press the bell icon, and I will see you next time. Thank you, card pile 2. All right, so card pile 3, how to heal from this. I first want to let you know you might hear the buzz of the heater in the background. I do apologize for that. It is cold and that's just what I have. So hopefully it's not too loud or too intrusive. So card pile 3, how to heal from this. So the first thing that I'm finding is there's some clarity coming through about a situation. I don't know if it's 100% clear yet, but I feel like in one way or another, there was some hurt, or that you are hurting or were hurting, and you were or are seeing yourself through and out of that situation. I think that's relatively to be expected, I guess, in a reading about how to heal from this. But I feel like you're coming out of this. You're coming out of the fog, the haze, the shadows, the challenges. You're able to see clearly, and you are letting go, and you are healing and forgiving and releasing and forgetting. Not that we have to do any and all of those, that we force those, right? Some people don't want to forget. You don't have to forget. But there's this ease of which that's coming through in terms of sort of being washed over by this cleansing rain, or this cleansing energy. Even we could say cleansing energy of the divine, where things start to wash away or come out in the wash or dissolve or fade. Where something that once was a dagger to the heart is now in the distance, something that has been relatively worked through or that's fading. Now, I feel like there is something to be said here about your spiritual growth, because I feel like one of two things: either your spiritual growth is serving you to heal and come out of this, and or as a result of whatever this was, you were able to grow spiritually, and it's probably both. So I feel like this is helping you come into your higher power, come into your, we could say, more authentic self. I try not to use higher self, although that sometimes is the only term we have. So it is what it is. Higher self could be it. But I do feel like there's a spiritual element to card pile 3, a spiritual element in terms of your healing, in terms of where you're headed, in terms of what you're embodying. I honestly feel like that was the part that was going to carry you through, or up or out, or whatever, however you might see that. When I first tuned into this card pile, I really felt the connection to being able to experience this, or see this experience, whatever the wounding was, the hurt was, the heartbreak, or the loss was, through the eyes of your higher self. And that when we are able to step outside or see outside of our wounding, we're then able to let things fall away much easier. So when we're identified with our wounding, when we are living inside of our wounding, and I'll talk about what that can mean or look like. But when we're living there, it's hard to, if not impossible, to let go. We're living inside of it. We're identifying with it. It's who we are, so we can't let it go. This is a natural part of the grieving and healing process, where at first we are victimized. So therefore we are a victim, and therefore we see the world with greater fear and greater doubt, greater distrust and lack of understanding. We expect the worst. We don't expect things to go well or to go right. We know it's not going to work out. We know it's going to fail. We know we're going to end up defeated. It has that energy, right? Because we're living inside of the wounding. And after being victimized so many times by life, by another person, by who knows what, we develop this expectancy or belief system or story or number of stories around how it's going to go, how it's going to look, how it's going to work, what it's all going to mean. And usually it all points to a dire circumstance or catastrophe or destruction, of total annihilation, and everyone deserting us and abandoning us and leaving us for dead, right? I mean, it really does get that amped up, whether we give it those exact words or not. We live inside of the wounding. That's the reality we tend to perpetuate. That's the reality we tend to believe. And so we more or less invest ourselves in the worst case scenario, and we live inside of the wounding. So let me give you an example. When we experience a trauma or a wound or whatever, to me, how I see it, for those things that have gone unresolved or unprocessed or whatever, it's like a part of us, right? Maybe it lives inside of us. So for some of us, we live inside of that wounding, and that's all we see. That's all we know. Like a baby in a womb, it has no idea the outside world exists. It has no idea what's outside of that womb. It lives inside of its comfort zone, In this case, our beliefs, our wounding, our hurt, and it can't see outside of it. It doesn't know what's outside of it. All it can see is that, so it's all it believes. And there's literally no getting into it, right? That's living inside of our wounding. When we start to do the work and expand into a greater perspective, broader perspective, our spiritual perspective, even just a more whole perspective, stepping into our wholeness, we find that we live beyond the edges of that wounding. We aren't just our wounding, just those beliefs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are outside of that. So we could even see this within the paradigm of inner child work, where it's like, oh, that's our wounded inner child, and we are the parent, right? So we're no longer identifying as the wounded inner child. We're no longer feeling like the wounded inner child and believing the beliefs and the thoughts and the experiences of the wounded inner child. We recognize there's something else out there. There's something more, that we are bigger, greater, broader, more powerful, stronger even than that wounding. And from there, we're able to support ourselves, tend to ourselves, and even allow the energy to eventually release as it wants to without forcing it. This all happens very naturally. The less and less we identify it, the less and less we live inside of it. But that requires us to step outside of that wounding and live in the truth and the wholeness and the expansion of our true being, right? Whatever's beyond the part of us that lives inside of this wounding. Most people on planet Earth will live inside of all of their wounding for the duration of their lives. There are some people who are psychologically or spiritually attuned. They will live in their wholeness. And even if that wounding is there until the time or the day that they die, they are able to identify outside of that, see themselves outside of that, choose to see beyond their wounding, choose to experience and welcome experiences beyond their wounding. And I feel like there's something here for you in terms of healing from this. Part of the work has either brought you to this place, or part of the work is we're getting to this place. We're able to step outside of the wounding and see outside of what's there, outside of the wounding and the hurt, outside of the beliefs and expectancy and the stories and the narratives of how things have always gone or how things have always gone for you, et cetera, et cetera. When you're able to step into your wholeness and recognize this is only a part of you, not the full and whole truth, and it's actually something you can tend to and support and nurture and connect with, i.e. the inner child work, then you start to recognize that you are a parent on your own 2 feet, and this is just a baby that you're taking care of. Your hurt, your pain is just a baby that you get to take care of, that you can support and soothe. And there's more to that, right? But we're keeping it focused relatively so for the reading. But we become the parent instead of acting like the child. We become the parent instead of screaming out or tantruming or reacting or impulsively responding or whatever like a child would. We're able to step outside of that wounding and behave with a little bit more consciousness. We're able to bring a little bit more space to our reactions, our responses, our choices, our behaviors, our feelings. We're able to bring a little bit more love and consciousness and awareness, more attunement. And then slowly and surely, as we are disidentifying with that, usually that part of us is able to return to us, the parts that are sort of essential or integral to us, and any old energies that need to leave or die, right? And they're no longer relevant to us because we're no longer holding on to them. So that was a really broad and big way, or even we could say roundabout way of talking about how to heal from this. This is about a spiritual growth, a spiritual expansion, no longer tying yourself to old stories, old beliefs, old agreements, old expectancies, old narratives, old truths that might have been true at one point and might have been hurtful at one point, but are no longer true. They're no longer accurate to the actual world you're experiencing now. If you're unable to experience the full present moment, of course, you're not going to know if you're living inside of the womb. You're going to think you're experiencing the present moment, but truly there's actually tons of filters and lenses and in the way and interference between what's actually happening and what you're telling yourself is happening. But if you can get some support or backup or someone who's able to you're able to check in with and can support you to help you see the truth, the difference between falsehood and truth, or illusion and truth, or pain and truth. Even if it's situations where it's conflict with other people, you're able to ask questions and see, if what you believe is true, right? There's ways to support yourself, but ultimately this is an emotional clearing and healing. This is an energetic clearing and healing. This is a choice to heal, to step outside of the old story, to step outside of the old narratives, to step outside of the old limitation and choose to live in your wholeness, in your greater being, in your greater expansiveness. I feel like you find so much freedom, and not just healing, but so much freedom in letting this go. You find so much freedom in letting these old stories go, these old narratives go, the old pain go. There's just so much waiting on the other side for you. Of course, my lingering question that I'm asking when I slow down is, okay, well, how do they actually do this? I like to keep things practical as much as I can. I do think spiritual practice is a part of it, as much as you can create space in your day or your routine or your life experience or lifestyle to create space where sort of the thoughts can fall away, the mental chatter can fall away, all the ideas even can fall away, all the inspiration and stimulus response scenarios can fall away. The more you can create space just to be in your experience and experience your experience and be at one with your experience, being in harmony with God's spirit, nature, life itself, where you are more tuned into the spiritual reality and or oneness and or source and or the quantum reality. The more you can tune in and tap into that, the more you're allowing any kind of old identity structures to fall away, any old belief systems to fall away, any old ego identities to fall away, because you're no longer keeping it going with the thoughts, right? So it's the real and rumination of our thoughts and stories that keeps our ego identities in check. The more we're able to step outside of that reality or those realities and step more into a spiritual one or the ethereal more reality where, again, meditation or yoga, for some people it's more active, for some people it's more passive. It could be singing or dancing. We're able to be at one without the thinking brain and instead just the being body. And you're no longer identifying with that. Once you open up some space and breathing room there, you're going to find a lot of that old stuff falls away, right? The beliefs can start falling away. You're going to start to see things more clearly. You're going to see where you have a story, where you might not have seen you had a story before. You're going to see your patterns more clearly. Things are going to be able to fall away. The energies aren't locked and loaded, sort of held up by this mental framework or construct. It's like once that's softened, we create the space for things to open up, to reveal themselves, and ultimately eventually fall away. That's going to happen through allowing yourself the space to be able to connect with truth, with God, with source, with yourself, with your heart, higher self, whatever you want to name that, call that. And it's going to look different for everybody. Again, sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's automatic writing. Sometimes even things like this where I'm sharing with you guys, that'll bring me some healing. I've experienced really grand healings within these readings at times. Usually it's like right after I'm done with the reading, in between that and the next one, I'll feel a big shift. And it's because I'm not in my own thinking mind. I'm in the moment. I'm in a being state, even though I am in a being state where I'm not actively mentally chattering and talking about all my problems and, trying to solve all my problems and come up with solutions and ideas. What about this and that? All that stuff ceases. So I step outside of my own ego identity long enough for some of this stuff to shift that would shift all by itself if I wasn't so busy all the time, right? And that goes for everybody. So yeah, ultimately it's coming more into your true nature. So the healing that happening now, how to heal this, is creating more space to connect with your true nature that isn't identified or defined by or limited by your ego or your experiences or self with a little s or your trauma or your history or conditioning or any of those things that can keep us sort of limited in our wounding, limited in our ability to see or perceive actual reality as it is, limited in our ability to receive from other people or connect or exchange with other people or have warm, loving relationships with other people. This is about coming into connection with your true nature more and more. That can be more frequently, but it could just be, it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? If you just create the space, things can happen instantaneously. So it's creating the space for that and then allowing those things to fall away. And then ultimately you find that you're reborn, and not only reborn as this ego identity, but reborn as a soul, as a spiritual being who is no longer held back by an old story, who has expanded into potentials that weren't there before, have always been available, but weren't quite there before. So card pile 3, how to heal this. This is about allowing yourself to release your hold on the past and any ties that bind you or anything that you've agreed to being a long held story for yourself, or any kind of blocks or things, limits. This is about releasing all of that and really coming into your true power and or your true nature. And this is what's going to free you, bring not only that freedom, but healing and forgiveness and a sense of ease and letting go, where you can find not only clarity and a sense of being energized, but peace. So that is your reading, card pile 3. Do share your story in the comments, like, subscribe, press the bell icon, and I will see you next time. Thank you, card pile 3.